but a guy that's right on top of it, wrote about it, Duane Rollins of the Canadian Soccer News. And Duane joins us right now. Duane, welcome again to Red Card, my friend.
Good to be here.
Duane, let's talk about this grassroots issue story. I was alerted about this a number of weeks ago that the Whitecaps were in town in London doing some informal sessions or, maybe like a town hall meeting with a certain club in London, Ontario. You wrote a beautiful piece. I'll leave it to you now to explain how this all came about and why there is an appetite to have a team from out west in Vancouver Whitecaps come here to Ontario. It's all yours, Duane.
Yeah, well, it's North London Soccer Club is the club that they were speaking to, and I've had it confirmed to me now that they have in fact reached an agreement. I've seen some emails that were sent, distributed amongst members of the club and people that were interested in it, suggesting that this was approved by their board. So this is happening. They're going to announce it in July. For the record, the Whitecaps sort of confirmed that they spoke to them, didn't say anything further than that. What's happening here is that there's a divide in thinking in London, has been for a while. Those that know the scene know that it's kind of a divided area. There was a group there that had been looking to start an OPDL program. That application is ongoing. This group approached the Whitecaps and started into these negotiations, and from what I've been told, are actively working against the OPDL application as well. So they want this to be the only elite program in the London area. So, I mean, we're getting into speculation when I go further from here, but it seems like there seems to be a political battle going on for the elite development there. From a Whitecaps perspective, I think it's very clear why they'd want in Ontario. It's a talent-rich area. Helps them build their brand, and if they can find a player here and there, then that's going to only add to their reputation and their ability to be competitive in Major League Soccer.
Duane, if you can just move your body a little bit around, maybe north or south, it's a little bit crackling there, and you're coming in and out. I'd like to ask you also this. I've known this for the last couple of years, that part of Ontario, London, is a hot potato. There's not too many people within their clubs down there that really see eye to eye on different ways to develop, on different ways to really build that pyramid within their club and within Ontario and within Canada. Is it safe to say that it is still a hot situation down in that area, and maybe this added a little bit more fuel to the fire?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a hot is a way to put it. Political mess is another way to put it. There's a lot of battling egos down there, like we see across youth soccer in this country for years. Certainly, all of them are going to suggest that they have the right ideas, and all of them will suggest that they are the ones that have the best interest in the development in the game in mind. However, they don't seem to be willing to work together, and this is another example. I have no problem with the Whitecaps coming into London. I think that maybe it's good on a competitive level. If you're pushing TFC Academy in Ontario, if you're pushing the London Academies, the SAC Academy that's there, if you're pushing these things to be better, then that's a good thing. But if you're working apart and working for a very small amount of talent, really, and not trying to, fighting at arms with each other for it, then I'm not too sure whether that is what's beneficial for the community, and whether limiting the ability of London to get in the OPDL, which seems to be what's happening here, is in the best interest of the sport in Ontario.
Now, are the Whitecaps prepared to send one or two or maybe more than that to the London area to start this, this connection, this relationship with North London, and help them along their path that they want to end up? What are the Whitecaps doing? Is there going to be some money involved? Tell us a little bit more, Duane.
Yeah, from what I've been told led to understand is that the Whitecaps it's best to think of it as an affiliate club to the Whitecaps rather than something directly run by the Whitecaps. So the North London program will operate in much the same way as it does now, with some support from Vancouver. That support wasn't made clear to me what exactly it would be. I think that someone suggested that there might be a couple coaches that are lent for some period of time each year, some kind of technical support there. Financially, there would be some kind of agreement in place as well, but it was not made entirely clear just how hands-on the Whitecaps would be. In fact, it was suggested to me that the model would be closer to what you see in some of the American MLS academies, where they just go out and sort of peg academy after academy after academy out of their region just to put their label on it, so that if a kid does get produced by that academy, then they have rights for them in MLS, but they don't actually have much role in the day-to-day operation. Unfortunately, the Whitecaps, because this hasn't been formally announced yet, aren't really talking yet. We really need to wait to get to ask them some questions, some pointed questions about how much direct involvement they're going to have.
So what's going to stop the Montreal Impact from, let's say, setting up shop in Hamilton?
Well, Hamilton would be within Toronto. Toronto has a 50-mile radius in which they have exclusive rights around. It's 50 miles from the Kia Training Center, so Hamilton would be protected. But there's nothing right now stopping the Impact from setting up shop in Welland or in Kitchener, which are outside of those 50-mile radius, or in Kingston, for that matter. Ottawa Valley is ripe in a battle zone there. The way that the exclusive right zones work, it's a bit strange because TFC only has the 50 miles directly around Kia, whereas the Impact have all of Quebec, and the Whitecaps have managed to somehow get an exclusive agreement with all of Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, and British Columbia, as well as being able to compete equally in Ontario outside of that 50-mile radius and in the Maritimes. So the Whitecaps have the most access to the Canadian talent pool of any of the three teams by considerable margin, and TFC the least. So it is a bit of a strange thing. You have to ask yourself questions there from a TFC perspective on how they allowed that scenario to play itself out. But, again, I don't have a problem with competition. I just want that competition to be equal and working towards the same end goal, which is the benefit of the game in this country, and I'm not sure it always does.
But what does this say then, Duane, about TFC and how they right now have lost, in my opinion, one of the top youth clubs in Ontario, in not being able to really partner up with them and not being able to sit down and work something out, that they had to reach out all the way out to Vancouver to get the Whitecaps to make this a connection?
Yeah, well, we've talked about the communication issues this might be a delicate way to put it, between TFC Academy and the rest of Ontario's youth development system and youth clubs in the past, in terms of whether they have a great relationship there or not. And certainly there's been some suggestions by many that the relationship is rocky. So I think you can draw some conclusions that are probably pretty accurate, that this speaks to their inability to effectively build partnerships with clubs that are at least outside of their region. The fact that they only have the 50-mile radius, I have to think that has to do something with what the rest of the province is saying and feeding back. Because, if you look at the way the fact the Whitecaps have all of British Columbia as well as the Prairies, and the Impact of all of Quebec, you would think that it would make sense then that TFC would have all of Ontario. But the fact they don't might suggest something that we've often heard whispered and heard and directly said to us in some cases, that TFC struggles to build and maintain relationships within the youth community.
Just before I got you on the line about 20 minutes ago, I contacted the president of the Ontario Soccer Association, Ron Smale. I asked him to come on short notice. Unfortunately, he's got a conference call that he's in the middle of, but he said he would like to come on sometime this week to clear the air and state some things on my show here. And I said the podium is open and we'd love to have you on. How do you think now the rest of Ontario youth clubs look at this? Let's look at Thunder Bay, all the way out Thunder Bay way. They've had some wonderful teams out there in the PDL, and the Calistros have done some good work with the Chilna youth system there. What does that say about them? You mentioned Ottawa. Let's not forget, some of the other regions that are doing quite well in Ontario. What does that say for them now to pick up the phone and say, hey, if North London did it, let's as well maybe give a call to Montreal or to Vancouver?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I guess they might want to watch to see what exactly North London benefits from this partnership. And again, I'm not suggesting that's going to go either one way or the other. I don't know yet. We have to see it play out before we know whether this is something that the Whitecaps are going to have a direct daily involvement in and it's really going to push their development to the next level, or whether this is just a case of slapping a label on a club and sort of reaping any rewards that may come out of it, which is what we've seen in some places in the United States. We just simply don't know yet. But yeah, absolutely, you would be thinking that other clubs would be reaching out, especially now that it's becoming aware that this 50-mile radius is the only limitations that they have in terms of being forced to deal with Toronto FC. They certainly, you would think the Ottawa Valley would be ripe for the Impact, especially with sort of going up to Northern Ontario. We have that French reality up there that might speak to them a little bit more, the Impact would. In some ways that's a good thing, though. You want TFC, you want the Impact, you want the Whitecaps all driven on by each other. I just want to see how this North London relationship is going to work first before I totally get on board with the idea.
So now let me ask you this as we let you go, Duane. How down and dirty do you think this is going to get? Do you think the TFC are going to say, all right, well, let's go out to BC, let's go out right in the backyard of the Whitecaps and get past that 50-mile radius and start making connections and relationships with clubs that we think, could really stir the pot there and even help us. Do you think that they're going to do that?
Well, to be clear, right now they're not allowed to by MLS rules. The MLS has protected all of Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, and British Columbia for the Whitecaps. There's 11 million people that covers that the Whitecaps have exclusive rights to. But what it might do is you might see TFC waking up, because I think it was the previous management that were worked in this agreement. These were established around 2011. So you might see Tim Bezbatchenko, Greg Vanney going, what is going on here? How come they have that much protection and we have just this little? And they may try and claw some of the Whitecaps gains back so that they can freely operate in the prairies at the very least. Because, and again, from my perspective, I think that would be fair, that outside of a 50-mile radius around Montreal, Vancouver, and Toronto, I think that they really should be equally competing. I think that would be the best for the system. But right now, they would have to work with MLS to claw back what the Whitecaps already have given to them.
I mean, it's unbelievable when I heard about this a few weeks ago, and you read a great piece here on the Canadian Soccer News, Duane, but I think this is far from done. I think we're going to start hearing more and more stories like this down the road because, as you said, and I've heard, and I've seen it, you've heard it, it's a rocky situation out there between, certain clubs and TFC, but not only certain clubs and TFC, academies and TFC. And I think what Tim Bezbatchenko and Greg Vanney have done in the couple years they've been here is they've tried to smooth things over. I got to give them credit where they've tried to open things up, have dialogue with clubs, open up and listen to some of their concerns. And I think they were blindsided by this, Duane. I don't even think they probably knew that this was going happening, that 50-mile race. Do you know if they knew? Duane, do we got you? We lost Duane. That's unfortunate. Duane Rollins of the Canadian Soccer News joined us, and we really appreciate him. But an interesting story he wrote on the Canadian Soccer News. Whitecaps partner with Ontario Youth Club to start affiliate team to operate outside of OSA's preferred elite development pathway. I think this is sneaky by the Whitecaps. I think it's real sharp in a way because they played within the rules. But I think this is going to get really ugly. I mean, this is unbelievable. I mean, Bobby Lenarduzzi, Dan Lenarduzzi, they decided that if this does come to fruition, we want to set something up here with this North London club, that they're basically saying to TFC, we're here because they've contacted us. We want to be here and we want to get this relationship going. You're not here, so let's move on. I mean, unbelievable. To me, it's unbelievable.